Hello and welcome to another Movecraft build video. This video I'll be showing you how I built the Wayfarer class battleship. So there's this whole story behind where this ship comes from, that it was built by this advanced civilization and its wreckage was found and all this stuff. I'll post a thread with that description on it. But yeah, this is I'm going to show you how to build this. And I will tell you a bit more about it as the build progresses. Alright, so to start with, you'll note that I'm immediately starting to look at armor patterns. Because for me, the biggest focus on this ship was armor. I wanted it to be as tough as possible. Basically, at this point, I was trying to prove a concept. I believed that with the new end stone, it would be possible to make a battleship that could actually withstand a lot of punishment without sinking, because that's been something that the server really was lacking. Weapon systems had become so powerful that even a very small ship could take out a very large ship very easily, and nobody used large ships for that reason. And combat tended to be very, very short. So here I wanted to try to prove the merits of the traditional battleship, and I think I was largely successful. So you may note the colors are different. Whenever I'm building a ship, I always start with very basic colors, and then once it's completed, I'll go back and paint it. That's not going to be in this video because honestly, it's kind of boring. You could see how it was painted with the whites and the dark colors, and there was some runes on top of the ship and stuff. But yeah, okay, so here I'm working with the weapon system. Now, you could use any standard weapon system on the battleship. These are the ones that I used. They're small, they're lightweight, so these are the secondaries. The ship is going to have 6 of these cannons. It's just, it's a pretty straightforward gun, long range, shoots about 400 or so. And the big thing is, if you've watched my other videos, you've probably seen or heard me go on and on about precision adjustable arc. I think that's really important. Now that we have cannon directors, the ability to actually aim becomes so much more important. A lot of people, they fight other ships that are at the same level they're at, and they've learned to do that just sort of out of habit. And a lot of the test battles and stuff you run into are that way. But that's not the way it always is. Especially if you just run into another ship, he may be at a different altitude you're at, and you need a weapon that can deal with that. Because if you have a weapon that can be adjusted to hit him, and he does not have a precision arc weapon, you're going to win that fight. It doesn't matter how much better his ship is or bigger or whatever, you're going to win because you can hit him and he can't hit you. Simple as that. Yeah, okay, you can see I'm kind of continuing with the design of the hull here. Pretty soon I start just using a lot of world edit commands to make this a little easier, a little faster. And I had previously done a little bit of math to try to figure out what the basic size of the ship should be. Just some kind of back of the napkin kind of math to figure out my general parameters of size. Now you may wonder about the general shape here. It looks, the ship looks kind of like it's a triangular shape. A lot of people say that it looks like a Star Wars ship, the Star Destroyer, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but that is not why it looks that way. I did not start this design by saying, I'm going to build a Star Destroyer. No, it was, I want to make a ship that's as tough as possible, and mathematically I knew that shape, the kind of triangular shape with the slanting, the diagonal borders, would have a tremendous amount of lift. It was the highest lift I could conceive of that I thought would still look good. I mean, yeah, you can make something higher lift. The highest lift design that is possible geometrically is a cube rotated at 45 degrees. So in the real world, and when I talk about highest lift and efficiency, I'm talking about surface area versus volume. So surface area represents how much of the ship you have to armor, you know, because that's the exterior of the ship. Volume represents your lift. So you need the geometric shape with the highest surface area, the highest volume and the lowest surface area to get that high efficiency lift. In the real world, that's a sphere, the object with the highest volume yet lowest surface area. Minecraft, because we use blocks, it is a square shape, and because of the way it ends up being interpolated in 3 dimensions, it is a square rotated at 45 degrees, or in other words, a cube, or better yet, a diamond shape, which is a cube rotated at 45 degrees. So I could have even more lift if it was simply a cube, but that would A, look stupid, B, be really laggy, and C, be hard to affix proper weapon systems to, in my opinion. And there's also something to be said for the fact that concept of efficiency should be tempered by practicality. For example, you can make some assumptions on the direction the incoming fire is going to take. Incoming fire doesn't come from completely random directions. It tends to come from above. It tends to come from the sides. You see what I mean? So for that reason, you can make some changes to these assumptions regarding ultra-high efficiency lift models. All right, enough about the general shape. I think I've talked about that ad nauseum. Let's talk about the weapon systems a bit more. So it's got the 6 secondaries, and I've already talked about them. The other weapon systems there's the main battery. The main battery is a repeating cannon. It fires, I believe, twice a second was the one that model fired at. Oh, and by the way, I'm using a R-fill, I think it's /fill-R, is that right? Something like that. Command to fill the interior with wool. That's a useful command. I don't know if you guys probably already know it. Anyway. So the main battery, at the time, this ship was designed a couple months ago, I guess. At the time, that was, a pretty strong weapon at the time. Since then, my methodology has changed somewhat. The biggest problem with the main battery is that it is prone to lag. Like many auto-firing weapons, there's a tendency that when the server is lagging, the weapon will blow itself up. Because the automatic cycling, because it doesn't require user input, that input is inherently slowed down by lag, right? I mean, if the server's waiting for you to push a button, there's a ton of lag, you can't push that button quick enough. So a non-rapid fire weapon inherently slows down during lag. But rapid fire weapons don't necessarily do that, which can mean that you can be in a scenario where the propellant never explodes, or more accurately, the projectiles explode before the propellant explodes, causing it to explode inside the gun, causing bad stuff to happen. So since then, I've been designing automatic weapons that are immune to that effect. And then just, whenever you're working with a weapon system, you come up with slightly better, more compact, more range, and so on. So all these weapon systems, the secondaries and the main battery, I now have versions of that are significantly better. But yeah, and talking about weapon systems, so one of the things that I think has happened on the server that was perhaps not ideal it used to be that I freely shared my cannon technologies, right? So every cannon on the server is based on the same basic principles that I invented. The arc control via pulse width modulation, cannons or turrets that function off of a single input with that redstone torch. And like I say, virtually every cannon you ever see works off of that basic system that I developed. Because it works so well. And other brilliant, really smart cannon designers have come in and made their additions, all working off of my basic model. And the effect has been a proliferation of cannons that are just insanely powerful. And this was kind of the truth of the server for a long time. That weapons were really, really good. And since then, I've kind of realized that's not such a good thing, because it means battles are over quickly. And yeah, so I've decided that I need to not share weapons technologies quite so easily. And yeah. Now armor, on the other hand, I do share the armor techniques that I find because I think that the server would benefit from having battles that are more slow and ships that are more durable. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process as far as sharing these systems. Let me see, what else is there to talk about with the Wayfarer? Well, I guess I could talk about the event that happened. So we had this NPC event, right? Where there was the Wayfarer came in, and it was going to attack anyone that came within range, and it was going to assault every region that it could find. And so we started cruising towards. So me and two other admins were piloting this ship here, the Wayfarer, and we start cruising towards Kirkita, and it's kind of a long trip. And the enemy, I guess it's not really the enemy, but the players on the server are looking for us to hunt us down. I was kind of surprised they didn't find us sooner. I mean, I had said what happened in the thread, which I'll link the thread talking about the Wayfarer and the event and everything. I had said right in there that it left some secret facility near Ravenport. It had left traveling west. Well, there's only one major city west of Ravenport other than Nirau, and Nirau is, I don't know how to say it, Nirau, whatever. But that city is right next to Ravenport, so of course I didn't mean that. You know, they're the same island, basically, well, the same island chain. Yeah, the only other city west of Ravenport is Kirkita, so that's obviously where we were going, but I guess we took everyone by surprise, and they thought, and all the fleets were in Ravenport, I guess. Anyway. So we get there, we assault the city, and everyone's like, oh no, they're at Kirkita, we gotta get there. And it takes a while before someone actually shows up. It must have been at least 20 minutes before someone actually gets there. The first people there, I'm pretty sure, were the Iridium people. They brought a couple of smaller ships. And so they start attacking the Wayfarer, and we're having this kind of back and forth match. We blow up a couple of their ships. And I'm probably going to focus more on the Iridium side, just because that's the side of the ship I was on. I know that there was action on the other side, and I know that we blew up a SHSF ship, and I never even saw that. But it must have been Sao who directed it or something. So we start shelling these Iridium guys, and they're going back and forth. They're right at that diagonal, the dead zone, and they're trying to get the advantage by maneuvering to where they can hit us, and I'm trying to hit them. And it's going back and forth, and we do sink a couple of their ships. There was this one, so they had a couple of these small assault craft looking ships. And then we sunk one of those, and they had this other ship, and I still don't know who was in it, but it was a darker ship, sort of a traditional airship shape. And I remember, we were going back and forth right in the dead zone, and I see this ship kind of in the back, moving out of the dead zone. I was like, oh, he is dead. Even though we only had our secondaries, we never touched the main battery. I'll come back to that. But anyway, I see this ship, and I'm like, oh, he is dead. I'm going to nail him. And sure enough, I stopped. I was previously trying to target one of the assault crafts that was going in and out of the dead zone, basically trying to get the advantage to where he can shoot and I can't, and stuff like that. And instead directed this ship moving in the back, and nailed him. First shot went off right in the midsection, blew off half the bridge, and I hit him one more time. And I never actually sank him. I don't think it ever sank, but it was heavily damaged. It never sank because we had so many targets. There was so many things going on, and we had to go deal with the other ship, because while I'm dealing with this ship that's moving out of the dead zone, the other ship that I was working with is kind of edging in to where he can hit me. And so, of course, I have to go back to dealing with him. Pretty soon after that, after kind of going back and forth with these Iridium guys, the ship just takes a ton of damage. And I look back at the ship, so I hear the explosions. And we've been hit a number of times. The Iridium guys took out one of the secondaries, but the controls were still good. And so I hear these explosions. I look back at the ship, and there's this just jagged line of destruction along the side of the Wayfarer. And I'm like, holy crap! Someone's nailing us. And it was, and so I look for who's shooting at us, and there's this Kirkidan ship, pretty far away. And what had happened is I was so focused on dealing with these Iridium guys, I never saw this Kirkidan ship on the contacts getting set up. And even though he's really big, and I should have been able to see it. But anyway, so I was so focused on the Iridium guys, and so we got to deal with this big battleship because he's got these big guns that have just torn up a whole side of the Wayfarer. So we line up on him, and I give the order to fire, and I think some of it fired. I'm not sure. It was all kind of hectic in battle. You guys know how that is. And then I give the order to fire again, and Morton comes back and he says, "No, all the controls are out. I can't." And so I said, "Okay, what about the other side? Can we fire the other side?" Because the battleship was in front of us, so both of our sides could shoot at it. But before they could fire the other side, the battleship had fired again and taken out the other side's controls. And so then I was like, okay, what about the main battery? And at that time, the main battery had taken a little bit of damage, but it looked like it would probably still work. We get ready to fire the main battery, and sure enough, right before we're going to fire it, a third hit takes out the entire top middle of the ship, including the main battery. So that was pretty much that. So we had not used the main battery up until that point because of the issue I talked about with lag. Lag during the Wayfarer event was horrible, like really bad. So we were not going to touch the main batteries or the shredders for that whole combat. So the shredders, so there's the main battery, which is a rapid fire gun with a firing rate of twice a second. The shredders fire at the same rate as the AA guns. So, really a rapid fire system. But it's also incredibly dangerous to use. It tends to blow itself up, especially, with the heat system, it really blows itself up. So we weren't going to touch that unless we absolutely had to. Now, one nice thing about the Wayfarer is the hull itself is so tough that even when your guns explode, it doesn't do much damage. But, of course, the gun itself is gone, so that's why we weren't going to risk it. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. So there were other engagements going on. I'm just saying what I saw from my side of the ship. Like I said, yeah, there was other things going on. So Morton was the pilot. Morton was commanding the actual ship, and like I'd say, okay, we need to turn to face the guns on this guy or whatever, and he'd turn the ship. We were all in a voice channel together, and I was directing the weapons on the one side. So I would like determine targets and attack them and stuff like that. So we were doing a little bit of multi-crewing, and yeah, it was fun. I think a lot of people had a lot of fun. A lot of the players, I think, enjoyed that. Let's see. I guess that's enough about that event. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is this whole war thing. So, starting a couple weeks ago, there was discussions with some of the. There was discussions on the server about how people felt like it was getting kind of boring. There was a couple of posts on the thread about how the server's getting boring, and so I was like, okay, well, what can we do to try to have some action? And so I talked to a lot of people, got their opinions on what was needed, and it kept coming back that, well, there's this strong alliance that everyone knows that if anyone starts any trouble, that this alliance is going to gang up on them all. And more than that, a lot of the bigger factions were just not motivated for action. It just wasn't in their best interest. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to try to do something about this. I'm going to try to encourage a little bit of action. And another thing that I was really worried about and that I'd heard from a lot of people is that, well, when you have wars, there tends to be a whole lot of salt, as they say, or a whole lot of yelling, a whole lot of saying, "Oh, I'm gonna beat you up," and just this ridiculous nonsense in chat, which means that nobody's really having any fun because they're all worrying about, who's saying what, and who's gonna beat up who or whatever, and it's just, I don't know, it's not a good gaming experience. That's the point. So I wanted to try, and I've tried this a number of times. I think I've probably talked to you guys about it on these videos. I wanted to try to have a war that was more about honor, fighting honorably, and just the idea that, can't we have a little bit of combat and yet at the end of the day not be jerks to each other? Can't we do that? It's like, I don't know, like in other games, like World of Warships, which I used to play a lot of, less so these days because I've been so busy on the server working on like programming stuff. But in World of Warships, if I'm in my carrier and there's another carrier and we're fighting each other, and he gets off like a really good strafe or something on my planes and wipes them out, I'll be like, oh, good job. There's no need for me to say, oh, you bastard, something like that. What's the point? It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. Why are we being jerks to each other is the point. So, yeah, I tried to make that happen. And it was going pretty well at first, I thought. I mean, you guys might feel differently, but I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. And a lot of the people I talked to were really excited about it. But then the salt started, and I think I'm probably going to offend some people, but here's what I think really happened: that when it was the leaders talking, and when I was talking with other veterans on the server, not necessarily leaders, but veterans, people who've been on the server for a long time, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is a great idea. This is going to be great," and they didn't have, they didn't have much to complain about. As far as, well, like I say, they thought it was a great idea. And then, once the general players got involved, that's when the real salt started. Oh, we're gonna beat you guys up, and we're so awesome, and you guys are so lame. Just this ridiculousness. Who cares? Go no one's impressed with your manhood on the chat channel, you know? It's just, nobody cares about that. Well, I mean, no one's impressed, that's what I should say. Oh, by the way, useful command. So I am using the gmask command to make it so that as I stack this shape through the hull, it is only affecting the gray wool blocks and not the wiring or anything else. Good command to know about. Google it, useful command. Anyway, so the salt starts coming, right? And up until this point, people were excited. A lot of the old veterans, the old-timers that I had remembered, playing with before, that I enjoyed playing with, some of them were starting to come back. And I was like, oh, this is great. The server's coming alive again. And then the salt starts, and everyone starts to realize that if we have this war, it's going to be just like before. That these veterans, these old-timers, they start to remember why they left the server in the first place. And they start to realize that maybe this isn't going to be so great. And so support for what I was trying to do just falls apart. Yeah, it was really sad. So right now, we'll see what happens, but I'm skeptical. A lot of the support has fallen away. A lot of people are like, nah, maybe we won't do this. Maybe we won't come back to the game, stuff like that. All right, so I have slowed down the recording because now I'm getting into the fun stuff. The blowing up of things, the testing of the weapons, the testing of the armor, and stuff like that. So I'm firing and I'm examining the damage and considering changes I can make to the design, testing how tough it is. This ship is, by the way, incredibly tough. I'll go further and say that I'm pretty sure this is the toughest ship this server has ever seen. In the Wayfarer incident, I went through and counted the damage that it took before it sank. It was hit 65 times before it sank. Think about that. 65 times. And it was crippled. Now, it's really hard to keep the control systems intact. It's really hard thing to do. And so the weapons were taken out one by one, and then by the Destrian ship all at once. But the Kirkedan ship all at once. But it was taking its beating pretty well. And it was only finally killed when someone had the bright idea of, hey, if I put my ship at the nose of this thing and fire down the superstructure, they can set fire to all of the cells at once. If I had it to do again, I'd put fire breaks in there. But I only had one. I had one fire break. And that had been punctured, so yep, they killed it. So yeah, very, very, very tough ship in my oh-so-humble opinion. If I had it to build again, it would be even tougher, and I'd probably beef up the armament a bit. I've learned since then how to make some better weapon systems. Yeah, let's see. I guess we get to see the main battery here. Oh yeah, the arc control on this is a little different. You only use the last repeater. And that's too high, of course. Oh yeah, another brilliant thing about this particular design is you can change the arc while the gun is firing, and it takes effect immediately. So you can see oh yeah, and I think I hit my own ship there a little bit. Yeah, I did. But yeah, so this ship has been hit pretty hard, right? But it's fine. Yeah, no problem. It's fine. Almost a third of the Wayfarer's total tonnage is endstone. And if you've built ships, you know how hard that is. Like, usually, when you're building a ship, you have a fraction of your original tonnage available for armor. This one is almost a third. Okay, so now I'm like, okay, another test. This time I'm gonna try bomb dropping. I'm gonna put a little ship here, and I'm gonna put, just like it was an air skiff, because that's a common way to try to take out a ship. And make sure that it can handle that. Okay, here we go. Boom, 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 boom. And my fighter prototype, whatever, killed itself, blew itself up, but the Wayfarer is fine. No problem. Yeah. Just sail on. So, I don't know. I guess the Wayfarer would probably be a good ship for like a siege event, probably, where the point is to stay alive. And like I say, if I had it to do again, I'd probably, and it still flies, as you can see, it still flies, no problem. If I had it to do again, it would be more designed for that. Okay, so at this point I'm like, all right, now we gotta really hammer this thing. So I'm going, it's already just really hurt, right? But I'm gonna get in this Raven assault cruiser, which is intentionally overpowered in the gun department, and fire until it sinks. And just wham, 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 and the ship still floats for a while, and then finally sinks. But it did take a while. Even after all the damage it had already taken, it could still take quite a bit of punishment from the Raven there. There's a reason that ship is banned. Yeah. Anyway, I did have a lot of fun with that ship. I had fun making it, and I had fun using it in the event. I don't know if that kind of design would actually catch on the server, just because they are still fairly expensive, and it's hard to make big ships. And the lag, it's a problem. That even if that kind of ship were to be popular, I'm not sure that's such a great thing, because the server can't really handle a lot of them. One thing we've talked a lot about with the admins is trying to have events in the Nether. So the Nether has virtually no lag from Movecraft, because there are no lighting updates. The lighting in the Nether works kind of differently. So in my tests, my laptop could handle 10 Goliaths. No problem, if they were in the Nether. And here I'm adjusting my aim, because I want to do the maximum damage here. Let's just look at that. Look at all that damage. But it's fine. Sailing along, no problem. In fact, well, some of the guns still work, presumably. So the original idea... Oh, there it goes. It starts sinking. The original idea... Oh, and the Raven blew itself up. That's the problem with those autoguns. Anything goes wrong, the slightest bit of lag, and boom. But not the new ones. I do have some new ones that are immune to that. Alright, well that's it. I'm out of the video, so hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll hopefully make more of these in the future. And please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.